Alright, I wanted to do a second benchmark of Red Dead Redemption 2. I mentioned earlier in my previous video that a lot of the settings that were included in the preset for basically the highest visual quality, basically like the ultra settings, and some of the settings that I set manually to from high to ultra, I really didn't need, and that resulted in me still getting basically 60 frames per second. But for me, I prefer for a game like this, I don't need to have over 100 frames per second as I do or would prefer in a first person shooter or even like Gears of War, which is third person. But 60 frames is still good. I mean, really, I played the whole game on Xbox One X, which is only at 30 frames, and that still looks good. But for me, where I'm going to be playing at mostly is on high settings, and I definitely would prefer like more wiggle room and nothing dipping below 60 frames per second, I should say. And so with this setting that I'm using, excuse the noise in the background as my dog scratching herself, I basically set everything from ultra to high. Some of the settings were default medium, and I set those to high as well. So you can see it here now. Everything is on high. I'm using the X12 versus Vulcan. I've seen some videos where there's not really a difference in either one. So gonna stick to DX12, but again, everything is high now. And then I've already run the benchmark before this video, but I'm gonna run it again for you guys to see. And again, I mean, honestly, it still looks great. I'm curious what graphical settings the Xbox version is. I'm really looking forward to the Digital Foundry video. But again, I don't need to set everything on ultra in a lot of games. And I've been saying this for years. It's kind of overkill, to be honest with you. So, I run usually like high, or in some cases like medium. And honestly, I can't tell the difference. And for me, I prefer higher refresh rate always. But in this instance, I feel like I get the best of both worlds. I'm gonna back up a little bit here so you get a better vision of what I see. I know it's never gonna be the same, but this is basically what I see. Yeah, I mean, to me, this is money. This is the money setting. Everything on high, and I'll focus in once the benchmark finish running. And my earlier benchmark run resulted in about 73 frames per second average. So again, I would prefer to play in basically like 60 and above for the entire duration of my gameplay. It would be my second gameplay of this great game, versus like having it just barely at 60 or even dipping below that. Even though this is a G-Sync monitor and you can't really tell the difference unless you look really closely, but maybe it's just a mind thing for me. Like, I want this game to be at 60 or above. And the HDR implementation is in this version anyway. I know that the console versions had some issues. Some called it fake HDR. Oreo, will you please stop? Oreo, come here. You okay? You itchy? It's a dog barking in the game. You hear that? Woof woof. Woof woof. Who's that? So I played a little bit of the intro of the game. As some of you might already know who played the game last year, it starts off really slow, and then it picks up. Unfortunately, the cutscenes are boxed, so it does take away from the immersion. But luckily for me, I've already played the game and I can skip most of those scenes. But to be honest, I do want to play the game from start to finish and not skipping any of the cutscenes. I want to play it again as if it's my first playthrough. So yeah, I mean, as you can see, I think my previous video, I needed to restart the game for some of the settings that I changed, including or namely HDR to take effect. And so my previous video might not have had HDR enabled in it, but now it is. It's again, you're not going to be able to tell from an iPhone off-screen video, but this game with HDR is amazing. And I'm happy to see a lot of the newer games have proper HDR implementation. The last game before this that looks amazing with HDR is actually Call of Duty, and I play that. I play the multiplayer portion of that, which is what I basically play. I've barely played the campaign. The HDR in that game is just amazing. It actually makes SDR look like shit. I can't play that game in SDR, and for me, in order to be able to record, I do have to play it in SDR, because otherwise, you know, with HDR on, it won't even let me record it. Some games let you record with HDR on, and it'll just come out looking a little bit blurry, like smudgy. But Call of Duty doesn't even let you record if you're playing with HDR on. So to me, it's like an added advantage, being able to see so clearly with HDR on. So that's the end of the benchmark, and we'll see what the average is we get here. And as you can see, pretty much right at 72, almost 73. So yeah, this is definitely gonna be my preferred way to play. Hope you guys enjoyed this and found it helpful.